Well, it's not what we were looking for.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Lots of Jared Curtis thoughts coming today. Lots of quarterback thoughts coming on today's show in general, which is brought to you by friends over at FanDuel right now. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So, Oregon had long been in the final two with Georgia for five-star number one quarterback and my top quarterback, Jared Curtis, in the class of 2026, and he chose Georgia. Well, that is not the outcome that Oregon fans were hoping for. And the recruiting news over the last month or so, I think it's longer at this point, has not really been there. I will address that further on tomorrow's show, I assure you. But Oregon is now, because Jonas Williams flipped to USC, without a quarterback in the class of 2026. And they did, on the plus side, get a crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong over at On3 to get Ryder Lyons, who's the other five-star quarterback Oregon has been chasing here. And a couple of major takeaways here, or at least the biggest ones that come to my mind. First of all, I think the reason this one landed harder in the disappointment category is because of how the last month had gone. Now, certainly, this is disappointing either way that you spin it, no matter how Oregon recruiting had been. I think it is something that kind of piles on to what's happened in the last month, where you've had five-star offensive tackle Cody Green flip to Washington. You've had a couple of other guys leave the class, and Oregon was safely inside the top 10, well inside the top 10 in the 24/7 rankings. They've now fallen down to number 21 nationally in the 24/7 composite. There's still a long way to go in this recruiting class. Certainly, though, not getting Jared Curtis, I think, is just kind of another point of frustration for Oregon fans that are going, man, what, USC is doing really well, and Washington is surging in the class of 26. Why is Oregon falling behind? It turns out, this is going to come as a complete and total shock to some people out there that would be hearing me say this for the first time. Oregon does not have unlimited NIL, number one, and number two, there are indeed other schools that can go toe-to-toe with Oregon for NIL, because, I was reliably informed on many occasions on online conversations that Oregon was just out there buying every player they want, and they can get anybody because they just throw a bunch of money at them. So Georgia didn't throw any money here? None? $0? I noticed that conversation, the financial angle, only comes up when Oregon gets a kid, but it never really pops up in the online discourse when Oregon doesn't get a kid. It's, see, Oregon can't recruit. It's a nice little double win situation that fans of other teams set up for themselves in these situations. But, for Jared Curtis, I'm definitely bummed that he picked Georgia, because this is a Josh Allen, Justin Herbert type special talent. Special talent. And Oregon has, as I'll talk about later, a good outlook in the quarterback room overall. But I still think that this is one that definitely made me go, dang it. Really would have liked to have gotten him. And when Oregon hasn't had the level of recruiting victories that I think fans have become accustomed to because of the standard Dan Lanning has set over the last couple of years, when you get in that expectation mode and then you don't reach those expectations every single year, this can be the outcome. Again, if it stays that way. I don't fully suspect that it will. A lot of Oregon's top players at this time last year had not committed, most notably the top player that generates more buzz on shows like this one or anywhere else, Dante Moore. Nobody is discussed more. Nobody is more hyped. Nobody has more potential in the 2025 class than Dante Moore. He didn't commit until July. So there are still going to be high-level players Oregon goes after. But the secondary reason I'm disappointed is because Curtis has all of the tools, and Oregon has been such a good place for quarterbacks over the really over the course of my entire life, there haven't been that many misses. Really, they have done, I mean, just a consistent job over the course of different coaching staffs and different offensive schemes, and the portal or high school kids. Like, the quarterback play has been really, really high basically my entire life, and I know that it predates that because I don't really remember watching Joey Harrington play. But the other disappointment with Curtis in the non-recruiting sense is that Oregon's without a quarterback in the class of 2026, and all your attention should turn on the recruiting front to Ryder Lyons in that area, because that's the not just the biggest name that is still out there to be had, but also the name that Oregon has been most closely tied to. I mentioned you got the crystal ball, but between these two guys who I've talked about on the show plenty over the last couple of months, Curtis was my number one guy for a reason. 6'4", 220 pounds. He can move. He looks like Josh Allen out there. That is who he looks like to me. And so to have him go to Georgia, yeah, it's, I guess, slightly better that Oregon won't have to go against him all the time in Big Ten conference play. Maybe Oregon goes against him in a national championship game one day. That would be that would be kind of fun. But the guy is an absolute huge talent, number one quarterback for a reason. And he doesn't play against the highest level of competition out where he is in Tennessee. I'll tell you, I don't care a ton, and I'm not about to turn this into, well, he's not actually that good. Like, that was a classic. I remember when Dante Moore flipped from Oregon to UCLA. I got dozens of messages, comments, and whatnot from people that went something like this. Oregon doesn't need him. He's overrated. He's not that good. He's overhyped and all this stuff. Like, nah, guys are really good. And this is a perfect example, Dante Moore, of why Oregon and Oregon fans as well, because I've seen fans do this with recruits at other schools, and it does not look good, and it certainly cannot help for this potential situation. Don't burn the bridges. Don't burn the kid. Yeah, Georgia's had off-the-field problems. Guess what? They're still a really strong program. I'm sure they gave him plenty in NIL. And Kirby Smart, it turns out, is a really, really good football coach. So, this is, I think, just another reminder, as there have been a lot of reminders in the last several weeks or couple months overall for Duck fans that follow recruiting really closely, that, oh yeah, other places have money. Oh yeah, other places have strong programs and great coaches and good assistants and, do all the right things to sell a kid. So it certainly is disappointing to see Jared Curtis go elsewhere, to see another high-profile target for Oregon come up empty on the recruiting front in 2026. I'd be surprised if Oregon just fully strikes out with 5 stars across the board. But with the Green flip, we'll see where Jackson Cantwell, the top offensive tackle, goes. There are certainly other names to follow here. But yeah, a disappointing start to the week for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. There is good news amidst this rainy piece of information. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Plus, anything that you go out and bet on, if you could turn your $5 into $200 in bonus bets, isn't that going to make, anything more exciting? Yes, of course it is. That's why you should go check them out. And they have Oregon bets for the football season. Big Ten title odds, national title odds, all of that good stuff. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Didn't have a lot of water left for the second segment sip today. Spilled it on my desk. I wanted to go get more. Almost ruined my laptop. It's all good. Everything's fine. I saved it. But it felt like tempting fate a little bit too hard to go out and refill the water cup today. So we'll reset. We'll make adjustments for tomorrow. So the good news for Oregon at quarterback is not just that they are still within striking distance of getting Ryder Lyons, who is a 2026 recruit, but is reportedly going to take a 1-year mission, so is really a 2027 kid, just like Gatlin Bear, who took a 2-year mission, 5-star wideout in the class of 2024. He will be here next year, and he'll just keep adding to Oregon's loaded wide receiver room of talent. But the good news for Oregon is if you watched spring game a while back, the quarterbacks looked really good. And if all goes according to plan, 3 of them are not going to play this year. That's great news for the Ducks. Great news. So this would certainly feel, and I'll reiterate, I am not happy. I am disappointed Oregon did not get Jared Curtis, because there's no other quarterback in this class I would want Oregon to have. He is a unique sort of talent. Ryder Lyons, though, if Oregon is able to get him, incredibly talented kid. No two ways about it. But if he's a 27 kid, that can work out for Oregon. Because going into 2026, is Oregon going to have a shortage of quarterbacks? I don't believe so. And if I had to place money on who's going to be Oregon's starting quarterback for the 2026 football season, my money's on Dante Moore. He would have to have a Mitch Trubisky level 1-year starting flash in the pan sort of season to say, I'm out, going to the NFL. And in that year, Trubisky, I guess he played in 12 games, but he didn't attempt as many passes as a freshman at North Carolina. But in 2016, his first full year and only full year starting in college, 68% completion, 3,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 picks, threw for 288 yards a game. That 1 year of starting led him to be the number 2 overall pick to the Bears, most famously over Patrick Mahomes. Good work, Chicago. But they've got Caleb Williams now, which is still not Patrick Mahomes, but kind of Patrick Mahomes. Maybe. I don't know. But that's the sort of year Dante Moore would have to have, to me, for him to be one and done. And Dan Lanning, coming out of another transfer portal cycle that has come and gone, still has not lost a starting player to the transfer portal as he goes into year 4. Pretty darn impressive. I don't know if there's another Power 4 program that can say that. And I think that speaks to the coaching, the culture, the development that these kids are sold on and believe in, because most of them stick around. No program is ever going to have 0 transfers out. But for Oregon to have had 0 starters transfer out, and yes, it does also speak to the NIL commitment that Oregon has, because guys know they're going to be well taken care of for the Ducks. That's a good thing, by the way. Don't overlet, somebody on Twitter or somebody at a bar or wherever you're talking to them spin that into a negative. Oregon being a Tier 1 NIL school is a good thing for the program, because if you don't have that, you're not going to go out and win championships. Speaking of which, Oregon softball, Big Ten champs. Oregon's racking up the Big Ten championships. This stuff's just so easy, guys. So easy. Anyway, baseball's playing well, but softball, boy, those kids can play. Anyway, bringing us back to the quarterback discussion. The sting of not getting Jared Curtis is lessened, not taken away, but lessened by the fact that I think Oregon's starting quarterback next year is already on the roster. So Curtis could definitely be a guy, as most quarterbacks are, like Dante Moore, we know in hindsight was, who needs an extra year, or not an extra year, he needs a year in college to kind of redshirt, sit things out. And remember, arguably, the greatest quarterback in the history of Oregon football, Marcus Mariota, started as a redshirt freshman. Sat behind Darren Thomas, a good, veteran, capable quarterback, and then he started his redshirt freshman year. Now, he wasn't as big of a recruit, rankings-wise, as Jared Curtis was or Dante Moore, but I point that out to say that, maybe Curtis would have been Oregon's starting quarterback by 2027. Now we're getting way into the future, right? But the good news for the Ducks, they did not actively need him to come in next year and start. Contrast that with Bryce Underwood at Michigan, for instance. He goes to the Wolverines, flipping from LSU with a big NIL package. And, I mean, Michigan's also a place where you can obviously win a national championship. And you can get drafted in the first round, as J.J. McCarthy did both of those things. But even though they don't throw the football a whole heck of a lot, he goes to Michigan. They needed him this cycle. Their transfer quarterback was Mikey Keene from Fresno State. I've seen him play. He's fine. By the way, not fully healthy. Bryce Underwood might start this year. Oregon isn't in that situation because you've got Dante Moore, who I think is a starter for next year. I don't know, but I think. But if it weren't Dante Moore, if he were to shockingly transfer out, or if he were to go to the NFL draft, then you'd have a three-way battle between Austin Novosad, Luke Moga, and Achilles Smith Jr. Which of those guys do you feel, or which of those guys do you lack confidence in right now? Certainly Smith would be at a disadvantage going into his second season, whereas the other guys would be going into their third or fourth, in Novosad's case, just of college football overall. But Achilles Smith Jr. looked pretty far along for a true freshman. I watched Braxton Burmeister as a true freshman. That's what it looks like when a guy isn't ready to go. And he didn't appear to be that. And he's also a big body, kind of Justin Herbert sort of quarterback back there. So I think that for Oregon, the immediate outlook at quarterback is really, really good. Still disappointed they didn't land Jared Curtis, as I have said, but there is a world in which Oregon doesn't technically need to get a quarterback in the class of 2026. They can go without it. They can. I don't recommend it. It's not preferable. I'd like for them now to go out and get Ryder Lyons, even if that means he doesn't show up until 2027. That's fine. But the way that I view the transfer portal, particularly for quarterbacks, you can apply this to any position, but particularly the quarterback spot. I never want to be reliant upon getting a high-end player at a position from the portal. Have it as an option, yes. Don't be Dabo Swinney or Stanford until very recently. Don't shun it. Don't throw it away and say, no, we're not using that. We're doing it the old school way. No. Don't want that. I also don't want you to be Colorado or Indiana or USC's first year with Lincoln Riley. Notice, USC first year, massive portal investment, paid off in the short term. They didn't pay enough attention to high school recruiting. Their next 2 years suffered because of it, because they didn't build something that was sustainable. They built something to win right away and gain respect to the fan base and whatnot. And now USC, after a couple of years of trending down, is realizing, hey, maybe we should build through the high school ranks. Oregon has, of course, already done that in the last couple cycles. They've pulled back-to-back top 5 classes and 3 straight top 10s. So I think that for the quarterback or receiver or wherever, you always want to look at what you have in the portal. But there should not be a single position group where you feel like you can't get at least a solid, capable starting group of guys without bringing in a transfer. That should always be an option. That's the way I see it, especially at the quarterback position. I don't want to be relying on the portal. Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel were great. Is that market going to continue to be there year in and year out? You just don't know. You don't know, and you can't anticipate, which is why you have to work in a way and operate as a staff in a mindset that makes you go, okay, we have to anticipate that we need to have a new high school quarterback capable of starting every single year. So drop your thoughts in the comments below, all of that good stuff. Speaking of quarterbacks, a scorching hot take about Austin Novosad came in right in front of my eyes. First, this episode brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple. Those are both really good words. And within a day, with multiple qualified candidates to choose from, you're going to help take your business to the next level. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Check them out at Upwork.com. All right, so you send me hot takes, and I rate it on Spencer's scale of agreement, and I love it. It can be about quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen, coaching staff. I don't care. You throw them in. Okay, this one, this is hot take. This is hot take central. This is from a Locked On Ducks insider. You get priority mailbag access and a bunch of other perks as well. Send all your takes, questions, and whatnot. My take: while both quarterbacks are very capable, referring to Dante Moore and Austin Novosad, Austin Novosad has more potential to lead the Ducks to a national championship than Dante Moore. I asked why. He said, "What makes me say that is I see more from Novosad as far as arm talent, being able to make correct reads, and the fact that this is his third year in the Oregon offense. I think he's making major strides every year. He's on the cusp of being really special." So you're kind of saying two different things there at the end of it, because I think he's making strides every year. I am on a 10 agreement level there. On the cusp of being really special, I'm on a 7 because I need to see him in game action, but certainly I understand what you are talking about. For your base take that Novosad has more potential to lead the Ducks to a national championship than Dante Moore, I am at a 2. The only reason this isn't a 1, and I guess I can give out a 0 take, but I give this a 2 for one reason and one reason only. Novosad is in his third year with Will Stein. Dante Moore is in his second. I think that's a great situation to be in, to where imagine if Novosad wasn't on the roster and it was Dante Moore backed up by Luke Moga and Achilles Smith Jr. Redshirt freshman who was incredibly raw coming out of high school and looked awesome in the spring game, and a true freshman. That's not your ideal backup quarterback situation. Novosad isn't necessarily 10 out of 10, 5 stars, no notes as a backup. However, he's more experienced than most. So does he have a bunch of game experience? No. But familiarity with the offense is not something that can be overlooked. And when I've discussed these two and their alleged, according to Dan Lanning and the staff, quarterback battle all spring long, that's always been Austin's biggest potential advantage, has been this is his third year in the system, so he might know more at the line of scrimmage. He might have a better feel for the plays and what Stein's going to call and what that means about, which coverage he needs to stay away from or which look he's got to, switch to protection and all that sort of stuff, right? He could theoretically, because he's only had one offensive coordinator and one offense his entire career, he could be ahead of Dante Moore in that realm. However, to the rest of your point, this is the other 8 of my take, right? My scale of agreement is at a 2 because you say as arm talent, being able to make correct reads, and the fact that this is his third year in the Oregon offense. We haven't seen enough from Novosad in real game action to know whether he makes the right reads. The limited stuff we have seen, it's looked good. The spring game looked good. And I agree, he can make really good and special throws. But to say that Novosad has more arm talent than Dante Moore, just factually inaccurate. Doesn't mean that Novosad couldn't wind up being a better quarterback than Dante Moore one day. It's 100% feasible. Jeremiah Masoli didn't have the traits of Ty Thompson. Who's a better quarterback? I think we all know the answer to that question. But arm talent, Moore was the 5-star for a reason. And Novosad, again, was a top 10, 15 quarterback in the class. This was not some diamond in the rough, long-term project sort of recruit, which is kind of what Luke Moga is, who I expect to be the third stringer this year. I think that Novosad has all the talent needed to start for Oregon or another Power 4 program and succeed. He was recruited to Oregon to be a starting quarterback. Baylor thought they had him to be their starting quarterback, and then he flipped to the Ducks. So, yeah, I agree with you on the Novosad upside and potential, but to say it's more than Dante Moore, don't see that, which is why I'm at a 2, because the upside of Dante Moore is as high as any Oregon quarterback as we've had in the last several years, or frankly ever. I mean, there's a really high bar to clear. I mean, you've got Bo Nix, you've got Dylan Gabriel, of course, you've got Mariota, you've got Herbert. Pretty high bar to clear. Herbert's stats in college were not as good as what he's had in the NFL, because he's had better quarterback coaching and better offensive coaching in the NFL by like a lot. So anyway, bottom line is that one's a 2. And Dante Moore can be great. Novosad could also be great. I expect it to be Dante Moore. He is the more talented player. He moves a little bit better than Novosad does. He's got a little bit more built of a built frame. And he has not just, I think, a stronger arm. I think their accuracy and ball placement is exquisite, both of them. I don't think there's a huge gap there between the two when you look at their deep ball accuracy in particular. Dante Moore, though, when I say arm talent, he's got the ability to drop down and throw from more angles. I think he just has a little bit more in the tool bag. And again, does not guarantee he'll be a better quarterback. Does guarantee he's got better traits. So keep the hot takes coming and whatnot. There are plenty more that I'll get to this week on the show. And I could not end today's show, of course, without mentioning the newest Duck. That's James Ferguson. No relation to Terrence that I'm aware of, since Terrence is from California and James is from Australia, originally by way of Boise State. You may remember he came into Austin last year and booted a 68-yard punt. He's now an Oregon Duck. Now, I came on this very show after the spring game and said, Oregon doesn't need a punter. Ross James had a bad day. It's whatever. Ross James has been good. Ross James was good last year. Well, they've got competition. Luke Dunn went to Washington, and Oregon's a fan of the 2-punter system. I get it. You want to keep guys sharp. You don't want them to get complacent, or you feel like one guy has more of a skill. Like Dunn was more of a placement putter, a short yardage sort of guy in kicking situations, and James was more of the boomer. And Ferguson was a Ray Guy Award semifinalist in 2023, first team All-Mountain West, second or third team All-American, depending on which service that you look at. Oregon's a Big Ten team now. Oregon's a real Big Ten team now, because are you really a member of the Big Ten until you place such a priority on punting that you go out and add a punter in the transfer portal? It's pretty amazing. This is the noisiest move Oregon had in the spring transfer portal window. I mean, Roderick Pleasant transferred to UCLA. Oregon has a lot of talented DBs that were blue chip recruits. Luke Dunn transferred to Washington. Well, here you go. You bring in a punter who was a one-time All-American selection. And elsewhere you look around, you're just kind of going a walk-on or two left. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of it. I think there was one other move, but there was nothing major. There was nothing huge. They didn't add a linebacker. They still technically could, because the transfer portal window is when you can enter. You can actually exit at any time. Amari Campbell, the linebacker in North Carolina, is still available. And I mean, he's a really good player. Really good player. He had like a 72 PFF grade last year. He had 45 tackles, 6.5 sacks. He's good. Oregon was adamant they're not adding a transfer linebacker, meaning I don't think they're adding a transfer anywhere. And I didn't think they'd add a punter, but hey, James Ferguson's a Duck. Go look up his headshot pick on the Boise State website, and you'll like this guy immediately. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.